Moms in Business. Welcome, everyone. I know you guys are very busy, and today we have got a topic that perhaps a lot of moms are shying away from, and it's to do with wealth and money. And my goodness, if you're thinking that you're just going to leave your partner to do it, or if you're just going to kind of let the money thing go organically, godly, you got to sit down and listen to Esther today. So today we're talking to Esther, and you might notice that Esther has got an interesting little blue trimming there. Just looking a little bit interesting daintily there. That is because we want to make sure that we have got a nice clean recording. So she's got the earplug on. And ladies, that is just really showing you as well that we can do technology just like we can do finance, we can do money. We just need to probably put some heart and soul to learning it, but Esther's going to tell us more about it today. So let me just tell you a little bit about Esther. Esther Althaus is an award-winning financial advisor who started a business in financial advising when she realized that she could achieve her own financial goals by helping others achieving theirs. Esther raised 3 daughters on her own while building her business and knows from first-hand experience the need to distinguish work life and home life and the juggling that goes into keeping everyone happy. Esther's direct, positive, and real manner is a much-loved source of encouragement to her clients. Esther, welcome to the Moms.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Selena.
Hello. Yeah, good. So yeah, I think this is a really, really important topic, and so many of us women or moms kind of shying away from looking at our money. And often if we run our own business, we mash all the money up, whether it is for business expense or home expense and things like that. I look forward to our conversation coming up here, but just before that, tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you got into the financial end of things.
Okay, so I'm a financial advisor, as you said, and I run a small business in South Yarra in Melbourne. We service mums and dads, pre and post retirees, small business owners, but we specifically have an interest in working with women who have a need to manage their wealth that they've come into either as a result of a divorce settlement or an inheritance from parents or husbands who have passed away. Typically, these women have been involved in raising families or supporting their husbands develop their careers, and even nowadays looking after elderly and aging parents. So they may never have had to manage money, they may never have worked and earned any money, and now find themselves in a situation where they're having to make significant financial decisions on their own, which can be very, very confusing, overwhelming, and incredibly lonely. Yeah. Now, how I got into this is because that was my situation. When I was quite young, I was married with 3 children. We were not able to sustain our lifestyle on the income that was coming in. I saw that it was a marriage that was imminently going to end. It was just a question of timing. So I studied, upskilled, and it's a whole long story we don't have enough time for at the moment, but essentially I came into financial services because it was an industry that I was always passionate about and always conscious of looking after money. And I became aware that there was a career called financial planning, and I just thought, wow, if I can develop a career, as you said in the introduction, and I can build my own financial plan by helping other people build theirs, then this is what I want to do when I grow up. Subsequently, my marriage did end. I completed my studies, and slowly, step by step, and we'll go into that a bit more later in the interview, I've built up into a career and a business that I'm really, really proud of.
That's great. Yeah, and creating that win-win with things that it's not just empowering yourself, but also empowering other women, especially in that very stressful situation. I've actually come across a lady, she was in exactly the same boat that you described. The husband has always been managing all the finances, the business and everything. And all of a sudden he died of a heart attack, and she picked up all the pieces.
That's right. And sometimes these women don't even know where everything is. And, you know, you have to speak to multiple professionals, whether it's a lawyer or an accountant or brokers or etc., just to piece together where all the information is before you can start designing how you're going to best live off what's left and make it last for as long as possible. So it's very, very overwhelming. It's intimidating because finances still today seem to be a man's world, even though there are a lot of women who are involved in financial services now, and many, many more women in the workplace. But if you've never had to do anything about it, particularly later in life where your confidence with finances might be eroded, very, very overwhelming and confusing.
Absolutely. I think it's really important what you were also just sort of guiding us towards is to understand that managing finances, it's a habit. You need to build it. And it's a bit like a muscle that you have to train it, right?
Yes, yes, but it's something that you can start at any point in time. And it's like if you want to equate it, because you talked about muscles, so I'm thinking fitness, and that's probably one of my weaknesses. But you know, you don't have to run a marathon in the first month of working out. You know, this is a very, very big field of knowledge that you need to know. And what I try to do with my clients is encourage them to learn what they want to learn, but also to not feel guilty about, you know, not knowing anything that's too detailed or extensive beyond what they can comprehend or feel that they can comprehend, as long as they're being smart and working with the right professionals to support them. You don't have to know everything, okay? It's like you're not going to do an operation on yourself, but you're going to go and work with people who are experts in that knowledge base and in that execution. And as long as you surround yourself by the right sort of people, you know, there are people who don't clean their own houses. They get someone to come in and do that. So outsource the hard stuff, but whatever, I would always encourage women as much as possible, whatever you can learn, try to learn it.
Love it, love it. And yeah, starting with small steps,
Yeah.
picking up things that you have some interest already so you can build from it. So for
Yes.
moms in business who have been perhaps just too busy chasing after kids and just working in the business, what would you say, you know, what would you recommend as their first step for planning their finance at home versus finance in the workplace?
Okay, so it's important to note, there's a couple of things that's important to note. First of all, that there are probably 5 times as many women going to small business than men.
Wow.
Right? Yep.
That's a
Yes,
lot.
there is. That's right. That's number one. Number two is that most small businesses fail in the first 5 years. So there's good news, there's bad news. And no one wants to be that failure, and many of us can't afford to be that failure. We're getting into something because we need to, and we don't have a choice. It has to succeed. Our families are dependent on it, our future's dependent on it, and we don't really want to give ourselves a choice. So what really is one of the first things to identify, particularly if you're working at home, is to have a real understanding of what is a home expense and what is a business expense. Because as your business grows, there are obligations, regulatory obligations that come with that. There are reporting requirements. If you have someone working for you, you have a responsibility to the people who work for you. And you have to, I think that you really, really have to make a distinction between what is home and what is work. Sure, there's the benefit of getting certain tax deductions, and there is that little overlap when you're working from home, but at the same time, if it is a business that you intend to grow, before you take it to the next step and bite off more than you could chew, which is where businesses then start to fail, you have to have a really good idea of where you are at. And I think that is something I get that initially things are very blurred, but at some point that blurring and a delineation needs to be made so that a distinction can be made that will enable you to have a good knowledge base to then grow your business successfully.
Gosh, that is so important. As you were speaking, I'm like, oh my God, like I've been in business for 15 years and I'm still like, there are these things that is just gonna blurt out and it's like, oh yeah, just put it on that card. Yeah, okay. There's that laziness and we always end up suffering later on. The bookkeeper go, well, what is this? And you just end up going back and forth, wasting a lot of manpower, especially if it's a bill that is like, 3 months ago, it's like, oh, $5.49, what on earth was that? It's like, it's too little to really spend big brain juice on, but at the same time, you cannot just ignore it.
That's right. See, the thing is that, we live a finite amount of years. We need to grow businesses within a finite amount of time while we're juggling other equally important elements in our lives. And one of the things that I've learned from this business, and it answers your question, is that we have to do things in small steps. The way I said before that we have to learn about finances in small steps, I think we have to be realistic about what we can achieve in the time frame that we have in view of other responsibilities at that time. So for example, if you have very, very young children that need lots of hands-on care and you don't have good support around you, or childcare services are not so available, then be realistic about what you can achieve in that frame of time. And then as you go on to the next stage of life where your commitments may change, let's say your kids start going to school, they're all in school, then you've got a day, the full day, use that day sensibly and be present for whatever you're working on while you're working on it. Don't compete. I'm putting so many points into this 1 minute here, but the lesson that I learned is not to compete with other people doing what I'm doing. So I used to go to professional development days and award conferences, and I'd look up at the people getting all these accolades, some of them who were only in business the same amount of time as me, and I felt guilty, or I was hard on myself, or I would pressure myself, why aren't I achieving what they're achieving? But I thought, hang on a minute, I don't have a wife at home cooking me breakfast and ironing my shirts. I don't have someone driving my kids to school or looking after my kids when they're sick. I don't have that. So my biggest competitor is myself, because I have to be honest with myself about, am I really doing what needs to be done? Am I taking myself seriously as a business owner, or am I pretend playing? And as long as, I said to myself, if I can look back every year and say I've done something better than I've done the year before, then that's fine. I'm not competing with anybody else.
That's a great lesson, and I think it can be applied to so many different fronts, like what you're talking about in terms of our own personal achievement. It could also be like, again, like financial stuff, when our friends are going on holidays, or, taking time off from their work or whatever because they got a job instead of running their own business. And we're like trying to put our head down, keep working and thinking, oh, maybe I should just go and get a job and, and just, take that time off. But we often compare and not realizing that, hey, hang on a second, our situations are different. The ingredients in life that we're cooking with is different. So
absolutely. And I'm very privileged to have the opportunity to see intimately into people's lives, from their finances, their health. I mean, accountants will see somebody's finances, doctors will see their health, but the nature of the work that we do means that we need to know we know what's going on in their health, we know what's going on in their finances, and we even sometimes know what's going on in their marriages. And that's one of the lessons that I've learned, is never ever to judge, never to come to someone's home, see a big home or a lifestyle and assume that they have a certain level of wealth. And of course it's lovely to go on these holidays and have all these experiences, but who knows what level of debt they're coming back to. and what they may negate that whole holiday experience with the stress and responsibility that that holiday has put them into. Now, having said that, we have to balance lives. I mean, we can't not holiday. We absolutely should enjoy lives, have fun. I'm number one, to say you've got to have fun, you've got to live, because what's this all about? But it's having that balance, but really balance it within the scheme of what's important within the values of your own values and what your family unit needs, but not what other people are doing. Because if you start to do what other people are doing, you never see the full picture, and number two, you fall into some very, very dangerous traps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are definitely a lot of myths out there, and with this whole society almost run on plastic. I was just talking to my husband, who knows, maybe a few generations down the track, there are no longer banknotes and dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder how people understand worth of things anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. My daughter asked me the other day, what's a Bitcoin? And I thought, oh gosh, I think my understanding of Bitcoins is only 80%. I said, Google it. Just Google it. I'm going to tell you the wrong thing. Just Google it.
You're already doing exceedingly well. I think for a lot of people have absolutely no idea.
I know, sorry, they may not even have heard of that word. But yes, I think you're right with technology, and there's so many changes. Even now, when I want to take cash out of the ATM, I don't use a card. I use my phone and I generate a code and I can take cash out. And in fact, I can SMS that code to anybody else who has a 3-hour window to take cash out of my account. So if your child is, say, down the street and hasn't got money on them but is near a shopping centre and needs an ATM, you can actually make cash available to them just through an SMS on the phone. I mean, it's amazing. It's scary. Don't tell your kids that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Mom's bank.
Yeah, do not tell your kids. But yeah, I mean, that's just the way the world is going. And I recently did a presentation at a school for a year 11 at a girls' school. There's just not enough room in the curriculum to teach all the life skills that should be taught. And I explained to them how credit cards work, the difference between credit cards and debit cards, and how interest is charged on a credit card. And they were horrified. Some of them said they're going to go home and talk to their parents about what they're doing. And others were like, we're never going to have a credit card. But, the reality of what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that is fantastic. I mean, I just wish, there are many more Esther out there going to schools and telling the kids. My girls, well, the older one, almost 10 now, she's talking about credit card already. She just think it's a really cool thing. That's what adults have. And I think when we were young, we also almost kind of get this marketing spiel drummed into us that the credit card is a status symbol.
That's it. Well, if she wants to be like adults, why don't you take out your notice of assessment and highlight the tax payable area and tell her she can have that as well. Actually, somebody, I saw this amazing meme or little graphic online, which is if you want to teach your children about taxes, take a bite out of their ice cream.
I love that. Yeah. Use that one.
Exactly.
Favorite ice cream.
That's it. Go buy them an ice cream. Say you want to be like an adult. Here, this is how you pay tax, and take a big bite out of their ice cream.
1/3 probably.
A third, exactly. A third of their ice cream.
Oh my goodness! And this is a really great segue to, I think, moms in business. We are learning how to managing our finances, both from a home front and a business front, and our kids are watching what we're doing.
Yes.
So it's
sorry, go on. Continue your question.
I was just going to say it's doubly important, to actually really work this thing out ourselves. So even if we're just learning 10%, they can see, that how that 10% to be done.
Yeah. So my kids are all a little older now. They're in their 20s, 26 down to 21. And one of the things that I observed with my children, first of all, I said no a lot. No is a very good way to encourage your kids to learn things for themselves. So get very comfortable with saying no. But as well as that, one of the things that I observed from my children is the importance of them learning how to save and spend at the same time. So one of my daughters worked. She loved saving her money, but she never ever wanted to spend it. She was happy to spend my money, but she never wanted to spend her own money. And one of my other kids is very mindful of having nice things for herself, but she'll put money away. And the third child is, if she makes it, she spends it. So I have one of each profile. But the reality is that life, you know, we don't do things only in isolation. You don't just spend money and you don't just make money. And there always, from day one, has to be that consistent way of spending money. So spending and saving at the same time. And even the concept of sharing, so giving charity and that whole concept. But I did come across, I do come across parents who say, well, when our children get money for birthdays and other occasions of work, we make them put it in the bank and we make them save it. We don't let them spend their money. And I do think that I personally think that there's an issue with that, because they should feel the pain of spending their own money and the pride of saving their money. They have to do both at the same time. Even if it's $2 and it's easy for you to pull it out of the bottom of your bag, make them feel the pain. I just developed this term with my staff. I mean, it's not an amazing term. I've just taken it from the medical industry. It's the immunisation. I've got a daughter who's overseas at the moment, and her work situation is challenging. And of course, I'm very disappointed for her and upset that she's going through this experience. But there's also a part of me that's actually happy, because I'm saying, look, it's a bit of immunisation, and it teaches you how to make smarter decisions and resilience for the next, for the rest of her life, basically.
Absolutely, yeah, preparing them, because life is not always going to be just roses and lollipops and ice creams. They're going to be a time.
Exactly.
You got to be wiser and more creative with your existing resources. And yeah, it's really interesting when money is abundant, we can be a bit slack with the money making decisions.
Yes, and particularly people who've grown up with not a lot of money will then in turn be over generous with their children. I know I'm generalising significantly, but you see that pattern happen a lot. If you grew up without, you want to have. But to some degree, that was my own experience, and part of the drive that made me build my career was because my reality was a situation where my family could support me, but I just was scared by that, because I thought, well, what if my parents can help me, but what if I can't help my children the way my parents can help me? What false sense of reality am I allowing my girls to grow up in? And I cannot perpetuate that situation. I have to make things happen for myself. I have to be a role model for my girls. They have to learn how to do things for themselves. Anything extra is a bonus. And, you cannot live your life on handouts. Because when you live on handouts, you have a very limited lifestyle as well, because there's a lot of guilt. You can't keep buying yourself things. You can't do those holidays. There's just a lot of things that someone with a good conscience would say, if they're taking handouts, they're not going to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is just so key. And I think there's a lot of that comparison energy is always hovering around.
That's right.
Ourselves to our brothers and sisters, and like you said, parents and things like that. So, that's really, really important. So, for financing options for business, what advice would you give the ladies out there?
Okay, so there are lots of different options, and I was thinking about how I was going to present it in the context of this interview, and I thought I'm not going to list them all, but I'll point I point the ladies in a few directions. First of all, I want you to know that there are options out there. Don't underestimate that, and don't use the word just, that just because you're doing this, or just because you're a small business, or just because you're young, the opportunities aren't there. You might have to dig deeper, you might have to work a bit harder, but we are very, very lucky to be women in business right now, because across many industries there has been a realisation that women are significant contributors to the workforce, that women can be trusted to make very good financial decisions and grow businesses, and that women can be given money without a man next to her to sign off or guarantee it. So there are lots of initiatives across a number of financial institutions that are specifically around providing money for women in business. If you're in business, you've got no excuse to not know how to use the internet. So go online, put in some key words like grants for women in business, because there are a number of grants. Finances for women in business, financial options for women in business. And you will see pages and pages of articles and links and information. They could be government, they could be from financial institutions. There are venture capital businesses that will target these small markets. And there are also some philanthropic organisations or family philanthropic initiatives that specially want to support women to grow businesses. So I didn't want to provide an actual list and assume that, if you approach them, you will get something. We can't assume that. But as I said in the beginning, they do exist. There is generally a better feel out there for supporting women, and just go for it. Don't assume, don't wait for someone else to nominate you. Don't assume that you're not good enough, and don't wait. Don't find excuses to wait for when you can show that your turnover is an X or whatever, because you will meet some amazing people along the way who will help you get to that next step.
Oh,
and even if
easy. That's great.
Yeah, you could be told no a few times, but eventually you'll be told yes. So just go for it.
Just do it, girlfriend.
Do it. Just do it and go for it. What's the worst thing that can happen? As somebody said to me, capital punishment's been abolished in this country. There's nothing you can do that you're going to get killed for in here.
Yeah, totally. I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you didn't say that, I wouldn't even have thought that there are actually grants for women in business. So, absolutely. Yeah. Ladies, options. Go Google it. Yeah. Okay? Google is your best friend.
Google's your best friend. And another point that I really want to make, because I know you'll be looking to wrap up soon, is that we as women, we are responsible for so many things in everybody's lives around us, particularly if you're a mum or if you're a daughter, and we put ourselves last. Women are very good at putting ourselves last. And sometimes we need to, if that is the reality of our situation, if we need to, we need to. No guilt. However, there's a time in our lives when we need to be the helpers, and there's a time when we need to be helped. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's a difference between looking for resources to find money, but when it comes to help, even if it's help with the kids, if it's other helps, if you feel that you just need some sort of support, even if you want to have a conversation with someone in a particular business area who can just help you, go make some decisions on something or get some clarity, ask for help. Do not be too proud or feel too stupid to ask for help.
That's great. That is good advice. And yeah, it's just amazing that how many of us are negating the whole idea of money, but at the same time we go into business. It's almost a bit of a weird kind of contradiction going on, because part of going into business is about money. It's making money. So we must get good at at least doing the basics and taking the small steps, like you said in the beginning. Just make a start. Just One step at a
That's
time.
it. Well, a lot of people who come into small businesses don't always come into it from the angle of what am I going to do to make money? Why don't I start this business? They start off with something that they're passionate about, and somehow then it grows into a business. So, I mean, there's a couple of ways into it, but that also can happen. And if you enjoy doing what you're passionate about and it turns into a business, I mean, you mentioned before a point about the distinction between working in your business and working on your business. So if you want to be that person working in the business because you love, let's say it's putting albums together or baking the biscuits or whatever it is that you have going, find someone else. Ask for help for somebody else who can do the things that you don't want to do or is not particularly your strength. Because if you surround yourself by a team of people with complementary skill sets, if everyone does what they do best, you will have a much better chance of being successful. One person cannot do everything in a business. One person cannot do everything in business and at home. Just doesn't work.
Well said. Well said. Absolutely. Get help. And there are definitely people like Esther out there who are experts in finances that are going to be able to have honest, candid conversations, the place where you can find that financial peace again, rather than just leaving it to kind of like just kind of throw it into a black hole and forget it. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, don't forget it. It will not forget you. You will forget it for a little while. It will find you. It will find you. Wherever you are, it will find you.
Oh yeah, the tax man know where you live as well.
That's right. But you know what? In fairness to the tax man, let's not pick the tax man. The tax man and financial institutions can be very, very accommodating when it comes to people who might experience a little bit of tight cash flow or a little bit of hardship, particularly if it's just a small patch. You need to, though, take responsibility, be upfront about it, tell them what your situation is. I have seen countless times when the ATO have really extended themselves to make it feasible for somebody to catch up with their taxes in a time frame that's not unreasonable. At the end of the day, the more successful people are, the more money they get. So if you don't try to cheat them or sneak around them, but you try to work with them, they will work with you. They will.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. That is so fantastic. Esther, it's been great talking to you. I know it's a bit of a heavy topic, but I think we have gone through it with a lot of really good practical tips. And ladies, do seek help if you feel you are stuck and you just don't know who to talk to. Find a financial advisor like Esther and just start that dialogue. You never know.
Yeah.
It might not be as serious as you think with your finances. There's never a stupid question, right?
Absolutely. Ask.
Yeah, that's great. Esther, if anyone want to get in touch with you, want to follow a bit more of what you do and absorb a bit of your wisdom, where can they find you?
Okay, so we can be found on either our website, which is www.perspectivefs for financial services, so perspectivefs.com.au, or we're on Facebook, perspectivefs.com, just perspectivefs is how you find us on Facebook. We've got a little colourful flower logo, and you can reach out to us either through the inquiry page on the website or through Facebook.
Awesome. That is cool. Thank you so much again. And ladies, don't forget to go and Google those grants as well. I think you'll find some goodies. I mean, even if you don't get the grant, the wisdom, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you again, Esther.
You're very, very welcome. And ladies, good luck. Keep persisting, and you will surprise yourself how well you will do. All the best.
Awesome. Thank you.